Hello and welcome back to Tree of Statism. Today we want to talk about a subject that is the political left-right axis. In some states like China and Saudi Arabia, where there is only the government and no opposition parties, there is no left-right axis problem. In other countries with more than one political party, there is a right and left axis. That is to say, all parties align themselves along this axis. And the argument is often between center, right, radical left, but never beyond this. Sometimes beyond this, but there is a problem. It should not be problematic or hard to discuss with the common person any kind of political issue without falling into the trap of right-wing versus left-wing politics. However, it seems inevitable. The reason is that for political parties it is a lot easier to discuss things this way. They want to discuss things in terms of good and evil, right and wrong, left versus right, without taking a deeper dive in. That is to say, we the good right-wingers are fighting the evil left-wingers, or vice versa. We the good left-wingers are fighting the evil right-wingers. You do not want to actually discuss the problem. You want people to take sides, your side. You also want short clips that you can put on TikTok or on the news in order to talk with people who are not paying attention, are going to listen for 10 seconds, and then go back to not paying attention. You want them to say, "You're right, those right-wingers are bad," or "those left-wingers are crazy and bad. We should fight, we should protest for, we should support our people," or "just vote for our people." In this way, we can say, "Orange men bad, let's vote left," or "Sleepy Joe Biden, let's vote right." No need to think about it any further. The libertarian movement has invented a concept called a political compass. Now, this is an idea of taking the political spectrum and turning it into a two-dimensional concept. When you look at it, the further right you are on the map, the further right-wing economically you are. The more you want free markets, the more you want to deunionize, the more you want free capitalist, kind of free market capitalism. The further left you are on the map, the more you want communism. You want either state-owned, union-owned, or worker-owned companies that work for the people. They often have free stuff for poor people, and a kind of intervention and controlled economy that is not run by private people but rather by the collective. The further up you go, you have the more authoritarian societies. Now, the more authoritarian societies seems like a bad thing because you saw authoritarian bad guys in the movies. However, this means you want more control over all kinds of social concepts. This means how and when you should be able to get married, what kind of sex you're supposed to be allowed to do, are you allowed to do drugs, can you own property, can you own guns, can you do a bunch of things that you want to do just because you want to do. The lower you are on this spectrum, the closer you are to the bottom, the more libertarian you are. This means that unless there is a good reason, you should be allowed to do whatever you want. And crime should be victim-based. This means if you can point to a specific victim, then we can call it a crime. However, if the victim is you, or if there is no victim, then this should not be a crime. The good examples are littering and smoking. Smoking is damage that you do to yourself. There is only one victim, and that is you. Possibly the people around you, but that already goes into there are victims. Doing drugs is also the same concept. Also littering, throwing trash on the ground doesn't exactly have a person that is a victim. People don't like it, but you can't say, okay, by throwing this trash on the ground you caused James this kind of damage. Now, the idea is, in this two-dimensional political compass, you can be right-wing authoritarian, right-wing libertarian, left-wing libertarian, or left-wing authoritarian. Wherever you are on this map, you have multiple things that are very, very bad or very, very good. And people on different parts of the map are not going to be automatically your friends. This means that if you're a right wing libertarian, you might not like the right wing authoritarian. Also, you don't like the left wing libertarian. Or, and of course, don't like the left wing authoritarian. Likewise, if you're a left wing libertarian, you don't like the left wing authoritarian, even though they are left wing, and you don't like the right wing libertarian, even though they're libertarians. It's a more nuanced approach to politics. The problem with the political compass test is that there are a bunch of other subjects to discuss. I'll give you a few examples. Atheism versus theology, veganism versus meat eating, environmentalism versus industrialism, pro-choice versus pro-life, feminism versus traditionalism, and for some reason, a subject that too many people discuss, though it is not that relevant to most people, Palestine versus Israel. Are any of these subjects related to liberty or authoritarianism, or to the issue of your markets, communism versus capitalism? Usually not. This means that we would need more axes, one for each new subject. This will actually lead us to an infinite amount of axes, because in order to describe you politically, we need to describe your position on each of these axes. Do you think this? Do you think that? What about this subject? What about that subject? It just never ends. And really, how many of these axes do actually matter to you? Why then are most arguments not multi-axis? Is it just complicated, or is there something else to it? The answer is tribalism. Tribalism is not a bunch of people dancing around a fire. It is also not hunter-gatherers. Tribes are groups of people in a state, or sometimes have their own state, that have an in-group, out-group preference. Usually the group defines itself, sometimes exterior forces and war define the group. However, usually the group defines who are its members and who are not, who deserve some kind of higher status and who are the outsiders. In the West, this seems like a silly concept. And if you can rise above it, does, and will grant you a better way of life. However, it requires everyone treats you this way. In far-off places, like in the Middle East, like in states like in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Yemen, in Libya, and in Afghanistan, we have people who are clearly divided into tribes. And despite them trying to rise above these tribal lines, they are defined by their tribes. You are a Sunni, a Shiite, a member of this clan, a member of that clan, of this religion, of that religion. You do belong or you do not belong. There is no integration, and sometimes when there is integration, you can join at the bottom. You can start from the bottom. You're not going to suddenly join in and be their new chief. You're not going to be suddenly accepted in and given the best of the girls. You are going to start as the bottom. Many of you are asking, why live in a tribe? Why not just ignore the tribe? In the words of George R. R. Martin, the lone wolf dies and the pack survives. If you are on your own, you succeed on your own or you fail on your own. You have no one to turn to. If you're in a group, you work together, you fail together, you do everything together, you eat together, and if one person is down in his luck, everyone else can cover for him. And later, when his luck returns to him, he will return the favor to someone else. That is to say, we are a group and no one is on their own. Think of the metaphor that the West has used by bad political movements of a stick versus a bundle of sticks. A single stick can be snapped. Some sticks require more pressure than others. However, when you bundle the sticks together, no person can break them. You need an axe. You need something bigger and stronger to break a bundle of sticks. Anybody who knows anything about the Middle East should ask them, Why does the tribal issue make things simpler to understand? You would think it would be significantly more complicated because there are usually a lot of tribes. It is not just Shiites versus Sunnis, it is not just Catholics versus Protestants. There are a bunch of factions, and a bunch of factions that don't really disagree on a lot except that I want to be in charge or this should be our property. Why then does this make things simpler to understand? The issue is coalitions. Because in a multi-tribal society, you have three things that can happen. You can conquer, you can get conquered, or you can unite. If you can conquer, there's no reason to look at the other two options. If you're going to get conquered, the third option, the best option for you, is to unite with other tribes in order to form a coalition that can withstand the bigger, stronger powers. Not because you like each other, but because you all agree that if you don't stick together, you're going to hang one by one. Separately, you're all going to be conquered. So the coalition is kind of your only other choice. In reality, it is conquer or unite, because if you don't unite, you will get conquered.
What most of you are probably thinking right now is okay, we get it. This is important in tribal countries like the Middle East. But is this relevant in the West? The answer is yes, because even in the West you have tribes. These tribes do not often go to war with each other, however, they face off on political grounds. You have in America, in the West, groups like Latinos, blacks, Jews, LGBT, gays, transgenders, lesbians, and a bunch of other groups that are concerned what will happen to them if the majority turns on them. The LGBT community is a great example. The gays and the lesbians are interested in people with certain body parts. The transgenders are people who want to display themselves differently and be different in the world, regardless of body parts. How these two groups fit together in one community doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to understand how it will work. You only need to understand that they are in a coalition. They want to stand together so that they are not hung one by one. Similarly, Jews, Latinos, and blacks might vote together not because they want to live together, but because they are concerned that if they start kicking out the Jews, if they start kicking out the Mexicans, if they start kicking out the blacks, if any of these groups are punished, they will be hanged one by one if they do not stand together. Therefore, they might vote together in one party, for one party, so that they are protected as a group, as a coalition. Political parties also follow this logic when they try to make a coalition between ideologies. In any kind of ideological debate between two parties, you're going to have 10 subjects you don't care about and one that is absolutely critical to your life. For example, in the issue, you are not both Asian, Black, Latino, and Jewish. Well, most of you aren't. However, you might fall into one of these categories. Any coalition that protects that category is going to be absolutely critical to your life. So, whatever tribe you fall into defines your ideology, not because you agree with 10 of the 11 subjects, but because you agree with one, the one critical one. That means that if you are Jewish, you will vote for whoever is protecting the Jews in their coalition. If you are black, you will fight for anyone who is protecting the blacks in their coalition, and so on and so on. This coalition will change over time, because reality changes over time. As demographics change, as groups fight, as people don't get along or do get along, the coalitions will change. And the parties are trying to find a way of making a coalition of 51% that will vote for them and give them 100% of the power. Any kind of political statement will also change with time. That is to say, the party line changes as the coalition changes. If today the Jews are no longer with us, then the party line will no longer include defending the Jews. Maybe it will even be attacking the Jews. Same for the LGBT, the black, the vegans, whatever it is, whichever part has left the coalition is now not protected by it or maybe even attacked by it. In the end, political parties want to build a coalition. Nothing else really matters. That is why they will talk in terms of good and evil, left and right. These are just blanket statements, nothing more. If you like this video, please comment, upvote, and subscribe. If you want to help further, go and watch my other videos. And if you like them as well, do the same over there. Also, please share this video and any other video you might think people might take interest in. If you want to support me further, you can buy my book on Amazon, Ancapistan by Noah Goodman. Thank you for watching, and good night.